Welcome to Her Voice Unleashed. We are dedicated to restoring balance in the world by empowering women to stand up, speak out, and boldly pursue their dreams. I am Nikita Sharma, and here with me is.
I am Amita Kumar, physician and life coach, and together we're breaking through societal norms and stereotypes. Hopefully, we'll be guiding you through nurturing your physical, mental, and spiritual well being. Today's episode is about society's influence on relationships, and namely so modern relationships. So, we're going to be talking mostly about heteronormative relationships, but obviously, this can be applied to all relationships. So, I think I'm going to jump in by saying that I used to talk about how my grandparents had very distinct roles, right? So we're talking like they were married in 1954, I think. Yeah, my dad was born in 1955, so my grandparents were married in 1954. So they had very traditional roles. My grandfather was the breadwinner. He went to work outside the home. My grandmother had 2 master's degrees. So for that time period, that's actually pretty forward thinking and progressive. But she, was like the supportive wife. So she did all the house things. And last week I was telling Nikita about a funny story. I remember when my grandfather was off one weekend or something, and my grandmother started talking to him about the roof repair and the different estimates she got. And he was like, I don't know. Let's go with the second one. And she was like, what, really? And he's like, I don't know. Why are you asking me? Like, this is not my department. That's for you to decide. And it kind of got me like thinking. I think about it often, it's sort of like, as much as, obviously I appreciate that me and my husband have some like crossover roles, it also causes some confusion. Like it's not automatically one person's job to make sure the dishes are done, or make sure that the groceries are done, or make sure that dinner is going to be ready. Like we both go to work, we both cook dinner, we both do the dishes. I do more laundry because I'm kind of OCD about laundry. But like it actually does, I think, create some overlap and can cause some confusion. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like back then, your grandparents' time, even my parents' time, and my parents were born in India, like the woman stayed home mostly and took care of the house, and that was fine, right? The husband went out, did the stuff, and so it was very clear for her to take care of the house things. But now, because there is overlap, but now the woman is expected to work as well, especially because just the way the economy is.
Yeah.
However, the gender roles have not caught up with the working roles. So now you have these men, and no offense to them, it's just how they were brought up. They weren't brought up to know how to take care of the house. It wasn't expected of them. And I was chatting with some ladies last night, and one lady had a kid, and she was like, oh, do you have a kid? I'm like, no, like I have a boyfriend. And she's like, oh, well, that's pretty much like a kid. I'm like, thank God not. Like I met guys who have been like a kid, like my brothers, for instance. I'm gonna put them on blast right now. My mom raised them to not know how to cook, not know how to clean, not do their laundry, any of that. And I remember telling them, getting to fights, being like, I feel so sorry for your wife, whoever you marry, because yeah, you are going to have to be like her child. But thank God for my boyfriend, he isn't like that, wasn't raised like that. But because now we do have to work as us women, like men should pick up half of the slack, but there is still such a huge majority who who haven't really caught up to that. So, and there is that added, and it's not to say that they don't do extra things around the house for the family, but with the house chores and the cleaning, it's like a day to day, it's a constant thing, which is like chronic work, chronic stress.
Yeah, wait till you have kids. So,
I
well, I mean, that's known. I mean, women still, in general do the majority of the child rearing. You know, regardless of actual physical household chores, child rearing is predominantly done by the woman and the mom or whatever, right? Regardless of whether there's two parents or just one, it just is the way it is. And probably part of it is because they physically come out of our body. And so, you know, I think that goes back to just like caveman days, right? That's just the way it is. We go into, you know, mama bear mode, or like, that's just how it is. I don't know, evolutionary even speaking. So it's difficult. Like it's, you know, my husband also was raised to cook and clean and do laundry, and he can do all those things actually better than I can. I was never taught how to do those things. I was never interested in doing all those things. You know, at one time my grandmother was like, thank goodness you're a doctor, because this whole household thing is like not your forte. I'm like, fair enough. But what's interesting is I kind of take offense to that because of what's in my head, right? Like I have I have this expectation of myself, right? Like as a woman, as a girl at the time, whatever, like just seeing my own mother, my own grandmother, both homemakers, did not work outside the home, any of that, right? Like you only can compare it to the person that was at home. Now, it doesn't mean I want to be home. I'm, again, not very good at it. You know, but it's difficult to like carve my own path when I don't know what it looks like. So I don't know if it's right or wrong. I think that we're all in a flux and it's all like strange. I mean, for me, it's very much uncharted territory. The whole like working and home stuff, and honestly, the expectations I put on myself for both of those things. If anyone has heard me speak in different settings, you've heard me say that when I got married, I decided that I was going to measure myself, well, unconsciously somewhat. I measured myself by the number of meals that I cooked in my house per week. And I still kind of do. It's sort of like in there. But that's like, that was my measurement of like how good of a wife, how good of a mother I was. And even though logically and, you know, cognitively, that's ridiculous. I mean, it just was something that's so deeply ingrained in me that it's hard for me to shake sometimes.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, because then there is that whole school of women, like my older sister, and she's an engineer and at least half the breadwinner in her family too. And then she didn't grow up like having the need or even like cooking or cleaning, all that kind of stuff. It's like, nope. And then you're kind of got two masculine roles in the household, right?
Yeah, I mean, for lack of better terms, but yeah.
I mean, and not to say like it's a gender.
No, but I hear you.
Yeah, like there's just a homestead person. And so
right.
How do you, I mean, I think you married someone who balances you out really well, but what do you do to calm those judgments or self-imposed beliefs?
Lots of coaching. I mean, first, I think the thing is like recognizing that you even have those thoughts, right? Like I kind of knew that I was coming into this with those thoughts. And thankfully my husband was like, that's crazy, ridiculous, you know, but it doesn't actually help when he says it, because I'm like, you don't get it. It has nothing to do with you. It's not what you're expecting of me. It's what I know. And so I have to first decide, okay, it's actually fine. And it doesn't always feel fine. And I'm okay with that. Or like, I finally compromised with myself, which was, I don't have to make dinner, 4 times a week. That was my compromise. I just have to know what the plan is for dinner pretty much every day of the week. So like none of this, like I come home from work and it's like, oh crap, what are we eating for dinner? No. I have to have like some forethought. And that's not, like that stresses me out, not knowing what there is for dinner. So it doesn't stress my husband out. He can just like put stuff together. He can whip things up, find things in the freezer and make something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have all the ingredients like laid out. I think that's why the Green Chef and HelloFresh boxes have been like godsend for me. Yeah. So, but I've kind of made it work, but I still have moments of like, oh shoot, what am I going to do for dinner today? And then it's like, my go-to is like, thaw some dal or grilled cheese and soup.
Yeah. It's that awareness, right? Just at least having some
Mhm.
skin in the game of like being an active participant in the making of the dinner. Because even if you take your family out of it, right, you still have to provide for yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
Sometimes I just think of it that way. I'm like, okay, if
Right.
it was just me, what would I want to eat?
Totally. Not with or without them. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I'm very thankful. At the end of the story, marry a white guy.
I know. Yeah, my husband is not Indian. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Probably somewhat.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good point. Like it is cultural too. Like it's deeply ingrained in the Indian culture as well. And I probably haven't said this on this podcast, but like it has taken me many, many, many years to understand what my grandmother used to say when she said, like, I love to cook for my family, or she used to show love through food. And that's not just our culture, many, many cultures, right? Like showing love through food. I live in San Antonio, and the Mexican culture is very similar to Indian culture. That's why diabetes runs in our families, like lots of food, lots of carbs. And we just love to eat right together as a family and have parties with lots of food as a family and friends, etc. But
As well, like
yeah, exactly. So you have to like also learn, like that's not how I show love, but it took me a long time to realize, oh, there is a way for me to like do this and hang out with my family and think that I'm like doing this in a loving manner for my family. And not be stressed out about it. Like, and I think it goes back to my thoughts. I get to take care of my family. I get to plan what the dinner is. I get to hang out with them at dinner time.
Yeah. I think for me, because I grew up the same way as my brothers did, like my mom didn't really force me or us to like cook or clean or whatever. But I was quite independent. And I think when I was like living alone and stuff like that, I was like, I found it as a form of self-love for myself. So I was like, really getting into the zone of like what foods bring me joy, what foods make me feel good. And I'm really grateful I had that time, because now I bring that into my relationship, and because it's just already a habit for me. But if anyone's like single out there, like take that time to nurture that habit for yourself, not just like when you're in a relationship or when you're in a family, because then you're going to feel like you have to do it for them rather than as almost like a ritual, like for yourself and them.
Oh yeah, no, that's a very good point. I did not get into that at all.
You were studying, you were doing like what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was a good excuse. I
We all have our strengths.
Yeah, that was just not like something I was interested in at the time. I also think that I was not interested because I didn't want to fit into the women's mold. Especially like I was going to be a doctor, right? In my head, like even just as a teenager, I'm like, okay, well, that means I don't have to be a homemaker. I don't have to whatever. Like, not that I necessarily even looked down upon it. Of course not. That was my mom and my grandmother. It was just one of those like, since I'm going to be a doctor, I don't have to worry about that in my head, but everybody should worry about that. And I think that's what I never was contradicted on. Like nobody ever said, well, you still have to do laundry. Like you still have to cook for yourself sometimes. Like you still have to clean your house sometimes. I mean, gosh, like when COVID happened and we had no housekeeper, my husband taught the kids how to clean the house, and man, I had COVID first, so that's how that happened. But like it was crazy. And they learned, and they learn even cooking. Like I was gone for the weekend, and they've been watching MasterChef, so they sent me pictures of like homemade pasta. Not my forte. That's cool.
Yeah. I think that's almost a great place to kind of wrap up on, is like it starts young. It starts with the kids. So there's no, only like if you're a woman and you have children, don't only teach your daughters. teach your sons as well. It's just as important because this day and age, not only the women have to know how to make roti, the men have to too, because the women are going to work. So
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Awesome. Thank you.
all right, bye.